Alright, so in this video we're going to take a look at the Take 5, the new synth from Sequential, and listen just to the filter character of this synth. They've said they've used the SSI2140 filters, which is based on the old Prophet 5 Rev 1 and 2, and the same filters they used in the recent Prophet 5 Rev 4 synth. What you heard there at the beginning was just one of the preset patches here, the Bank 2 patch number 1. It's called Tommy Boy. I just started off with that because it's a good example. So in this patch you're hearing 5 voices in unison, all playing with some filter sweep and some of the vintage knob going on. Let's go ahead and start with an initialized patch though, just to break this down more straightforward. Okay, so here we've just got a single saw wave. And I'll just do some filter sweeps with this just so you can hear what the filter sounds like. So I'm just going to hit a couple octaves and a fifth here. So that's with no resonance. Here I'll go about a quarter. Really nice resonant sound there. Here's about a third. Half. About 2/3. So right about here is where it starts to become self-oscillating. I'll just go up a little bit at a time. And here's maximum. Okay, so that's just with a single sawtooth here. Just so you can hear too, I'll turn down oscillator 1 just so you can hear the resonant filter sound here. So it starts self-oscillating about 2/3, between 2/3 and 3/4, right there. Okay, let's try it with a 2 oscillator setup. So we'll do a saw. Let me just add in another saw here. I'll put them both in the same octave. So this is the sound of the 2 saws. About a quarter. Third. that gives you a basic idea of what it sounds like with a couple of sawtooths here, both in the same octave, one at full and one at half. I'll play around with the drive here a little bit. The drive is pretty subtle overall, is my impression. It doesn't go nearly as far as something like the sub 37 drive, but it does add some saturation in here. So here I'll just start with it down. Here's it half. And at max. With the resonance up about third. Drive at half. And at full. And resonance up about 2/3. Drive at half. And at full. And resonance at max. Drive it halfway. And at maximum. So as you can hear there, the filter drive is pretty subtle overall. It just adds a little bit of warmth and saturation in there, but doesn't really create like an overdrive distortion type of sound. There is a dedicated overdrive knob over here that really gives you more of a distorted type of sound if that's what you're going for. I'll turn that up just so you can hear what that sounds like. That's with overdrive at about 1/3. Here's about 1/4, moving it down a little. Down resonance a little here. Bring up overdrive. You can definitely get some really grungy sounds. That's just overdrive at 1/2. Here's with 3/4. So this synth's definitely capable of getting some really grungy tones with the dedicated overdrive knob over here. And then, yeah, the filter drive is more of just a slight warming up of the tone and saturation of the drive circuits. Let's do one more test here just with the noise instead of an oscillator. So let's turn on, we'll go white noise full. Here's what the pink noise sounds like. To me, a little dirtier noise. A little more of a hurricane wind sound. Here's with resonance up on that one. Okay, so yeah, that just gives an overview of the general filter sound of the Take 5. I think it sounds great. Personally, it definitely has that P5 vibe to it, and I think you'll be able to accomplish a lot of those same sort of sounds like the classic Rev 1.2 and the more recent Rev 4 sounds on the 1.2 filter. All right, I'll do one more test here, just using the vintage knob to show off what it does in regards to doing filter sweeps like this. So I've got the oscillator 1 saw, oscillator 2 saw, both at -1, and oscillator 2 is mixed about halfway. So this is without any vintage. Here's with vintage about half. And at full. So you start to hear the effects more with the vintage really high when there's no resonance. What you're hearing is the cutoff peaks of these 4 notes that I hit. 3 of them are octaves and then a fifth. The cutoff points are offset as I do the filter sweep. So with no resonance, you don't hear it very much. Unless it's really high on the vintage knob. So that's why you can hear it there a little bit. Let me bring up the resonance to about 1/3. So that's with no vintage. Here's with it at halfway. So you can start to hear the cutoff points are separated out a little bit there. Here's it full with vintage. There you can hear it really evident. I'll turn off resonance up to about 2/3 with no vintage. There, the filter cutoff is really tight on each of the voices. Here's it halfway. So there you can really hear the voices start to separate more with the cutoff. The vintage is offsetting the cutoff point of each voice, and here's at maximum. So you can really hear it there, a lot of separation in the cutoff. I'll turn it up pretty high here, almost maximum resonance. First vintage off. So you can hear there without any vintage, and there's no key tracking on here. As I pull the cutoff off with no vintage, the filter cutoff is very tightly tracked between these 4 voices that are held down, so it gets that really piercing cutoff sound. As I pull up a vintage here to halfway, you'll hear it separate more. And at maximum. maximum vintage with this high resonance. It's pretty extreme. I don't know if you'd ever want it that high, as it really offsets the filter cutoff a lot. I haven't done a technical analysis of the vintage knob yet on this like I did on the Prophet 6, but I probably will do that in the future and document more of what the actual offsets are to filter cutoff and the ADR timings and oscillators and all that stuff. One thing I did notice about the vintage knob that I'll just mention real quick is it's not the same as in the Prophet 6. I can tell just because one of the things I tested was that the vintage knob doesn't offset oscillator 1 and 2 within a given voice like it does on the Prophet 6. So that was one difference that I noticed. You can work around that in the mod matrix by just routing a voice spread to oscillator 2, fine-tuning with, whatever amount you want on that. And that does give that sort of vintage variance of oscillators being offset. So yeah, I think I'll wrap up this video for right now. This video was not meant to be like a real musical demo of the synth. I just wanted to show off the filter sweeps and the general filter sound because I know that's something that a lot of people are interested in hearing on this synth. So yeah, this was just more of a technical presentation video of the filter. But yeah, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this and more musical demos too. I'll have a bunch more stuff coming and some more technical information about the Take 5 synth and its capabilities. So yeah, I'll wrap it up there. Have a good one.